In a world where big gaming companies made horrible decisions,
like greenlighting Forspoken,
a group of heroes called indie games rose up to protect the world from devastation, to unite all people within our nation, to denounce the evils of truth and love, to extend our reaches to the stars above. Jesse.
Oh, sorry, seems like I kinda went out of the storyline. But yes, in fact, indie games have protected the world from devastation. Like, imagine instead of playing games like Pizza Tower, Hollow Knight, Rain World, Stardew Valley, and Shovel Knight, you were instead forced to play games like Forspoken. I really dislike Forspoken. Indie games have honestly shaped the gaming community so much to the point where some people prefer games made by passionate smaller teams rather than games that are backed up by millions of dollars. Now, I'm not saying AAA games are bad. I could count so many AAA games that are my favorites. We got Red Dead Redemption 2, Elden RIng, Ghost of Tsushima, Super Mario Odyssey, the list goes on. But still, that doesn't mean that just cause a game is made by a AAA company means it's gonna be amazing. Take Cyberpunk 2077 as an example. So much hype but little to no gameplay, because the higher-ups forced the game to come out in its unfinished state. Another example is Halo Infinite. Have you heard any news recently? No, so I think you can tell what happened. What is a AAA game? If you've never been near the gaming community, a AAA game is generally a game that is produced by a medium to large sized group. Some examples of AAA games are Monster Hunter World, Ghost of Tsushima, God of War Ragnarok, Resident Evil 4 Remake. What is an indie game? Now, the definition of indie games could be interpreted in different ways, but the main one is that indie games are generally made by a small team. We have Stardew Valley, which is made by one person in his bedroom, Hollow Knight, Shovel Knight, Hades, Going Under. Now, the main thing that has been occurring to AAA companies these days are that they are killing themselves. Not actually killing, but like they're ruining their reputation. Most of them don't listen to their fan bases, they usually become greedy with in-game purchases, as you can see with Overwatch, and they also don't hold their promises. Also like Overwatch. Damn, why do all these apply to Overwatch? To contrast this, indie games are getting bigger because most indie developers take their criticism and apply it to their games so their games can be bigger and better. They are also more active with the community, and due to less restrictions, they can do whatever they want. Now, with these big AAA games, there are a bunch of annoyances I see within them. Most of them are open world. Yes, open world, the best thing in the world. These so-called open worlds being dead and nearly have nothing within them. Only random collectibles for achievement hunters. And their mechanics they aren't that unique. To also contrast this again, indie games aren't afraid to go out of the box with their ideas. And they have so much variety. You can never stop getting bored. Most of them are made by passionate developers. Have you seen devlog videos? And also most don't sell you an idea then never speak of it again. Come on Overwatch, why are you doing this? Oh, and one thing that I just love about indie games is their stylized art. Coming from a person who studies art and wants to get better at art, I just love the art of these indie games. I want to be like that. Look, now this thing generally, I just dislike in any game, and it is battle passes. Like, what in the world is this? Why does nearly every game need a battle pass? Now, before I actually start talking about games, I just want to clarify that I'll be talking about bad AAA games and your average indie game, just so I can show you that the size of the company that made these games doesn't guarantee its quality. We got Anthem, which I swear has nearly been in every single PlayStation sale for $4. Look, just as I said, all I can say about this game is it's essentially a catfish, since before when they presented the game, it looked spectacular. But what we got was, yes, Gotham Knights. The game your mother says we have at home when you ask her for the art from games. How is a game made 7 years ago better than this garbage pile? Heck, even Pepsi Man made for the PlayStation, which came out in 1999, is significantly better. Marvel's Avengers. A game that managed to fumble so hard that it has nearly been abandoned by most of its player base. It's super repetitive with the missions and the story is mediocre at best. Also, Crystal Dynamics. Why in the world does a skin cost $20? I ain't paying for this. Overwatch, or now known as Overwatch 2, is just mind-blowing. How in the world do you promise and promote a story mode as the main difference between the first games and then just snap it out of existence just like nothing happened? Also, the battle pass idea and the changing of currency is terrible. The game is basically a repackaged version of Overwatch 1, but with little tweaks. Now for Forspoken, the game that I've been subtly hating on since the start of the video. Well, this game is just utterly bad. The story, horrible. The dialogue, atrocious.
That is something I do now.
The characters, dreadful. The world, cheap. And the gameplay is just unsatisfactory. I had to pull a thesaurus just to describe this game. It was so poor of quality that it caused its developers to suffer. Look at Luminous Productions now. Oh wait, it's gone. It doesn't exist anymore. Okay then? Now this thing, it pains me to say, but the Pokemon games aren't that good nowadays. Like the Pokemon companies completing side quests. They're doing everything other than trying to improve their game. We just got Pokemon Sleep and have seen Pokemon Smile. What's next? Pokemon Eat? I used to defend the Pokemon company, but now, considering the recent games, minus Legends obviously, I don't think I'm a fan anymore. The recent Pokemon games are a buggy mess. If I had $1 for the amount of people who made videos complaining about it, I would be a millionaire. The game's performance, which is atrocious, made it unplayable to the point where I dropped the game. The open world seemed pretty vacant, like the only thing giving the game life is only the Pokemon. The game's not having a national dex doesn't affect me. I'm ready to have a Pokemon game with just 100 Pokemon as long as it runs well. You do have fun with the new games, but comparing the quality we got to the size of the Pokemon company, it kind of makes you feel like they honestly don't care about their games anymore. Now imagine you were a horrible, unplayable, buggy mess of a game that released to the 30Hz cap. I think you already guessed what game I'm talking about. It's Redfall. The game was built on it being multiplayer focused, but even the multiplayer is bad. The only time you might have enjoyment is laughing at the bugs. And don't get me started on the single player. It looks depressing. And now on to the indie games. Let's get right into it. Cuphead. Now look. This game pisses me off so much, but yet I love it so much as well. Just the art style, the way the game works, everything is magnificent. The bosses are painful except for the first one, because it's the first one, it's supposed to be easy. But the rest are hard, especially the annoying bald Eggman looking scientist. It made me pause the game and nearly never pick up the game again. The Pathless is a hidden gem. The idea of having to explore this world by shooting an arrow at targets is gold. I platinumed this game on the PlayStation 5. In fact, it was my second PS5 game that I got. The game's environment and music just makes you feel like you're on an adventure. Also, the boss mechanic is amazing. Having to hide from the bosses from time to time is an amazing way to create suspense and always make you on your feet. Oh, and the final boss fight looked amazing. From the dramatic music to the warm color scheme. Like, damn, that's some cool things you got there. The Forest. An amazing game to play with a bunch of your friends. Want to survive a horde of tribal people that are actually experiments gone wrong in order to save your little son? I'll save you, Timmy! But this game has truly changed my thoughts on survival games. I love him now. Just picture this. You're building your base all alone while the calm rain drops on your body. Even though everything feels perfect, you feel like something's watching you from the distance. Then you hear screams and footsteps. What do? There's only one answer to that. It's chainsaw time, baby! Have you ever wanted to fight a bunch of bosses to the rhythm of pop genres? Well, if you want to, No Straight Road's the game for you. We got a DJ, a rapper, a pianist, a boy band, a pop star, and a VTuber fish with legs? You can switch between the two main characters that both have their own unique moves. The movement is a bit janky, but it doesn't hinder you that much. The art of this game is so abstract with its shapes, which gives it its own personality. Just look at this concept art. Oh, and you can also feed a crocodile which can fly a helicopter. Moonlighter, you see now? Moonlighter is another game that is good. Real good, in fact, that I made a review on it. I'll leave it in the description. Please watch it. Do you want to feel inferior? Well, Rain World is perfect for that. You play as a slug cat, and all you gotta do is defend yourself from all the creatures. Find food, oh, and also not get poured down by the rain. This game's AI is so complex. There are many types of creatures you see. The first one that you'll encounter are the lizards, specifically the green ones. Now, each lizard has a different type, corresponding to a different color. Some of them work with other lizards to adapt to the situations they're in, while some just jump at you in order to eat you. There are also these vine things that stick out of the ground pretending to be poles for you to climb on. Don't climb them. Don't do my mistake. Now that we have talked about some indie games and some AAA games, we need to compare the two. If you have noticed, there is one thing in common between 5 of the bad AAA games we talked about. What is it, you may ask? Them being open world games. Now, I'm not saying that open world games are bad, not at all, but it goes to show the difference between most AAA game titles and indie game titles. Indie games are mostly different, and even if they are the same type, they all have their own uniqueness, while AAA games usually follow the quote-unquote gaming trend, which is the safe option when it comes to creating games. When zombies were the trend, what did most AAA game companies do? They made zombies zombie games or implemented zombies into their own games. When Breath of the Wild came out and took the gaming world by storm with its vast open world, what did most AAA companies make? They made open world games. Also, if you noticed, the art style between most AAA games are the same. They all focus on realism, unlike most indie games. AAA games aren't like this because the devs are uncreative and can't think of ideas. No, that's far from it. Most of the time it's because the higher ups shot them down, so they can play it safe by doing something that's already alike. But with indie games, the creators are able to create whatever games they want. There are also some AAA companies that try to be creative with their games. For example, From Software and Nintendo, but it's still a small majority. Now look, there are things that AAA games do better than indies, such as promotional material, which makes sense because most indie games don't have the funding to do that. If you remember, way back in the old era of gaming, a lot of these AAA games were so unique and never were afraid of diverging from the norm. Has anyone seen Patapon? But can AAA games be fixed? Well, they can. AAA games can be fixed, but what they need to do is to create games that have their own uniqueness. Look at God of War. Now, I really like God of War, but even though I love it, I can't call it a unique game. If you take Horizon Zero Dawn, God of War, and Infamous Second Son, you can see that even though there are differences, they still feel similar in a way. Let's compare the next upcoming indie games and AAA games. You can see the difference between both types, don't you? We have finally reached the end of the video. I hope you take this information and think about it deeply during 3 AM while you're sleeping, during your math exam, and while you're eating with your family. Oh, and thanks for all the support in the last video. I can't believe it got 147 likes. That's the highest I've gotten. I'm Joker, signing off.